Today we're going to make a quick, easy, micro pumpkin or melon farm for both Bedrock and Java. Let's go! Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is get your hands on an alley. Now how do you get them? Well, you go to somewhere along the lines of hopefully a pillager outpost that actually has one. Maybe this one doesn't. No, this one's completely surrounded by water. Well, that bombed out really quickly. Let me see if I can find another one. Give me a second. Okay, take two. So what you want to do is find yourself a pillager outpost. Now, when we come up to the pillager outposts, often we'll find that there's a bunch of cages kind of like this. Now, some of them will have iron golems and some of them will actually have the ally. Unfortunately, this one again doesn't actually have any. Okay, third time's the charm. So let's have a look and see. We've got none in there. Ah, this one actually has one. Okay, in fact it's got three. So as you can see, you can find them around the pillager outposts. So that's a fantastic way of getting them. In fact, it's the way I normally get them myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our farm and have a 3 wide gap and then blocks on each side. And we're going to go down 14 blocks in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And one more just so that we can basically seal it up like that. Now we should have a gap of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Easy as pie. And from there, we just want to chuck a block in here. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to build up a little bit, kind of like this. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves a whole bunch of pistons and observers. So our pistons, we're going to have a bit of a formation a little bit like this, as you can see. And then we're just going to continue that all along, all the way up until the very end. So as you can see, it's just basically what you've seen maybe a few times before on YouTube. At the moment, it's no real different. And there's a good reason why we're about to change things up a little bit. Okay, now that we've got all our pistons in place, we just chuck in a whole bunch of observers. Now, with the alley, the best way to get it to actually follow you is just to basically give it any old item. That's the best way to get it to follow you anywhere that you want to go. Okay, so now that we've got ourselves with our entire place built up where we have obviously a crisscross pattern of pistons and observers, next thing that we want to do is add redstone to the top. Now in Java Edition, you actually want to have some blocks on top of it, a little bit like this. The reason why is that adding redstone on top of a piston, yeah, it doesn't end up too well. So in Bedrock, that's the only difference that we really have, is that Bedrock doesn't actually need to have the extra blocks on top of it, so we can get rid of those. Then from whichever block that you've chosen, what we can do is just basically add redstone dust everywhere. If you're on Java, we're going to be adding it right on top of our blocks without any issue whatsoever. And we should end up with something a little bit like that. And now very simply, we just add ourselves one note block here and join it with some redstone dust. Nice and simple so far. Now, what we're going to need to do from here, add some dirt in. And now you can decide to have pumpkins or melons. These farms, if you've only got one ally, you're going to have to choose between the two. Unless you can get your hands on a second one or breed them, which breeding them is actually quite simple. It's basically just having a jukebox and an amethyst shard. Next thing's next though, we're going to need some stairs. So what we're going to do is just add a couple stairs in. We don't actually need to add this many, as I probably will add in, but I like to just make it look a bit more prettier. I mean, it's up to you. You only need, I think it's one for every 4 blocks that's away, so in fact you would only need sort of half this at most, but I just like making it look pretty, if I'm completely honest. So there we go. So you can add it on both sides, you can add it on one side. Realistically, we only need one side, but you can add the second side if you want. From here, you just want to hoe all the area. We won't actually need it all hoed. It'll eventually end up being a crisscross pattern anyway, but As far as just making it start up nice and easy, it's easy enough to do it all as one. Easy as pie. What we're going to do from here is we're going to add some seeds in. So anywhere that we have one of the observers, we're going to add a seed in. And when you plant them, it actually plays a note, and it actually also fires everything off. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually work on a collection system. So we just want to have one block away, 2 chests just like this. And then from there, we'll get rid of the block, add a hopper. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a bit of extra block, whatever it is, doesn't need to be iron blocks. And we're just going to put down 2 rails, and we're going to get rid of 1. The reason why we're doing this is that sometimes you actually find that the rails might be placed in a different direction. So for instance, you might place the rail and it may be facing that way. You just want to correct that by adding an extra rail on the side, then you can get rid of it, not a problem. That way, basically we have it side on, which means that we can lock in the actual minecart like this. So it's got a bit of protection when we chuck it in. Not an issue. Now, if you would like extra storage, which if you plan to AFK for considerable amounts of time, it's quite easy. Just add some extra chests down below, and you can just simply add some more hoppers. Not a problem. Now, the next thing I like to do is to add a bit of mob proofing. So we don't want mobs in here or anything like that. Let's add a couple torches just to make sure that everything's all safe. Even if you have this in some sort of little dank dark cave, it will be all perfectly safe. Don't have to add this many. I do because I want to. It looks nice. Now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to build out a little bit. So if you're in the sky, then you want to build out a little bit like this. If you're underneath the ground or something along those lines, it's up to you. But generally you want to have at least 1 block gap so that you can allow the alley to actually move around the entire place without being sort of disturbed too much. Okay, so from here, what we want to do is we want to secure the area a little bit more. Sometimes the alleys, they like to wander a little bit or follow characters when we don't want them to. So what we're going to do is we're going to surround, in this case, with some glass. Now, the main thing is that you can surround it in anything. This can just be the walls of your cave. Unless it's this block here. This block here you just want to have as either a stair, a slab, or some glass, namely so you can open the chests whenever you want to get your items. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to seal the alley inside. So if you can see where your redstone dust is, we want to have where that block is, just one above it, so that the alley is not sort of stuck, not being able to actually drop off all the items that it picks up. So it should look a little bit like this. So the alley's got a bit of space to actually work around with, but at the same point it's not got too far to travel around. Obviously in Java Edition you're going to be building this 1 block higher because this will be on top of a block, and then you have the redstone dust on top, so these ones have to be a little bit higher. So as for getting the alley back in, you have 2 basic options from here. Either A, you can use a lead and drag it in, or B, you can swap out the item that has... Where to go? Where is it? Okay, there it is. Okay, then give it a new item like a pumpkin. And then what we can do from there, just chuck a single one in and wait for it to dive on in. There we go. And now I can just... Really? Okay, let's try that again. Hey, buddy. Okay, now we can trap it in. Okay, so now it's fully trapped in. It can't really go anywhere. It's just waiting on time for all of them to be basically grown up so that we've got all the pumpkins or melons grown up. And from here, what will happen is that any time that the machine goes off, it also powers the note block. When it powers the note block, it will try and drop it where the note block is, which means that it gets picked up by the hopper minecart and then basically deposited into our system nice and easy. Let's fast forward time a little bit and let our crops grow up and see how we go. Okay, so a little bit of time has transpired now. So basically we're starting to get a few of our plants grow up, and this machine won't be the fastest. Obviously, it's not until you get the really big machines that actually start to be the fastest, but overall, for something that sort of fits in the corner of a base or underneath your base, it does really well. It doesn't make too much sound. The most that you normally hear is the alley actually making a bit of noise, and occasionally you hear the note blocks or the pistons. So overall, it's not too bad a farm. It's quite easy, quite simple. It's fairly cheap. Obviously, the observers are going to be a bit of a pain to try and get. You can try and cheapen out a little bit by, instead of having every single one of the observers as an observer, you can try and just have just a regular block there. So for instance, if every second observer was only actually a regular block, it's not going to detect them all, but when it detects them, it's going to still basically do that. So there we go, a nice, easy, quick, simple farm to get pumpkins or melons, or both if you've got two different alleys. You can also go one step further if you want to, and build another second one next to it. And basically just set it up all the same. Delete this big glass block that we see here that's separating them, and you could have them right next to each other, no problems whatsoever. But as you can see, basically the alley just darts around, does what it does, collects what it can, and will chuck them on top of where that note block is, because that's the last note block it heard in the last 30 seconds. And so that's basically it. Nice, easy farm. Let me know if you have any problems, guys, but generally it works pretty much the same in Minecraft, Java, and Bedrock, aside from the blocks that I mentioned. Hope you have a good one, guys. Catch you in the next one. See ya!